What's up, King Kamali?
What's up, brother?
Nothing. Just Roofers here again. Roofers leak specialist.
Roofers.
Uh,
What's going on?
roofers leak specialist. We got this leak in our thing in the insurance. They're trying to they send roofer out, send leak specialist out, and they send another roofer out, leak specialist out, and the plumber out, and then they're trying to figure out where the leak's coming from. And so that's it's been going on for like a month. It's like, come on, guys. anyways, what's up? How you doing?
Chilling, man, chilling. I pulled an Armon. I didn't go to the gym for about 6 or 7 days because I had the flu. But I'm all right now.
Okay.
I never get sick, ever get sick. And for me to get sick, something was wrong. So I went to the emergency room, and everybody was sick. They're starting the whole mask mandates once again, which is a nightmare. Which is an absolute nightmare. That's why I've been kicked out of one gym in my life, and that was the Powerhouse back my last gym. And the reason why they kicked me out is because I couldn't wear a mask. I couldn't do it. I tried.
They don't do that shit down here.
I just could not breathe with that thing on my face. So I left, and thank God there was a studio that I went to, and I made it through COVID without fucking wearing a mask.
They don't pull that shit down here in Texas. We don't. That's up
Texas,
up the east.
Man. That's why.
Yeah,
New York is
I know.
Story.
I know. You ever thought about moving? If your kids weren't in Texas, would you? I mean, if your kids weren't up in New York, would you move?
If I could just move anywhere, throughout all my travels in the United States, I'd go to Arizona, man. I absolutely love Arizona. It's flat, it's dry, and every other restaurant is a health food place. One of these, these Paya Bowl health food. Everyone's pretty. The people are gorgeous there. I loved Arizona. I'd go to Arizona.
Yeah, I've had a few best friends, live in Arizona for a little bit, and they eventually moved, and they were they kind of got tired of the keeping up with the Jones type stuff. So,
it's up there. It's upscale.
Yeah.
You got to have some money, especially in the Tempe and Scottsdale area. But again, that's my alley. I'm comfortable with those people.
Right. Yeah, you're good with all that. So a lot of stuff going on. Let's start
with your stuff. That's the fun stuff.
Well, Lee Priest was supposed to be here today, but unfortunately, he's in the hospital. We've been texting back and forth. He went overseas to do all these seminars and stuff like that. And when you fly on a plane, like when I got back from Turkey, I went to the ER because my freaking ball sack was like all swolled up like this, and I had, and bro, I couldn't even walk. I was in extreme pain, and so I went to the ER, and I had blood clots in my you've got like veins and other stuff in there. It's kind of like spaghetti, and it's like kind of like so swollen, and I was already on blood thinners from the hair transplant, but just from the flight, I guess back from Turkey, blood clots are common on flights. And so, they just put me, just continue your blood thinners. And I was like, I was like heat compressing on balls. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's a mess, man. I remember when I went to Australia, that's a 23-hour flight. And I was with Dex and Chris and the whole IFBB contingency. They made us get up and walk around. We didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
There was designated times where the pilot would get on the speaker and say, hey, guys, you got to walk around. So we would get up and walk around the plane a few times and come back. But it could be devastating. I hope Lee is okay. Is he okay?
Yeah, I've been talking back and forth with him. I think I just got out today. He had some clots, and then he's first class. He's like, he loves it. They have a shower in there, and you're basically, you've been on a cruise, King?
No.
You've never been on a cruise? Oh, you would love a cruise because you like to eat. You just eat, and it's just on. I love, bro. Cruises are my favorite vacations. But anyways, Lee, he was just they blew over there for a seminar, and he has all the issues I have. He has a lot of the neck issues, the lower back issues with the nerve damage, and a lot of the chronic, like really chronic pain that gets you and just like mentally, just you want to just like, jump off a bridge sometimes. And so he deals with all that. So we go back and forth and we talk about the chronic pain issues and stuff and how it affects our training and that. But he's good. Like I said, he was supposed to join us today. He'll probably be on next week.
We'll bring him next week. We got him next week.
Yeah, to chop it us with it. But yeah, he's good. I've been keeping up with him. So he's, Australia is different, the medical system there. So everything's like free.
Right.
So, unless you want to go to like a real, the rich people go to like a real private, and then you kind of have to pay then. But, yeah. What anything new except you in the flu?
No, man, just the flu really got me. I just staying away from the gym. If this was 10 years ago, I would have been in the mental hospital. But now I'm matured enough to know that it's time to rest and this and that. But what I did is I overcompensated with the food. So that's what I do. If I'm not making it to the gym, I'll double up on my food, just keep it clean. I gained 17 pounds in 8 days. 17. I went back up to 280. And then I brought it back down the last 3 days. And today I just did an hour of cardio, did the sauna just to bring it back down. My face was like this 2 days ago, man. It's crazy how my body wants to grow. I have to keep it in check. If I don't keep it in check, I'm going to end up looking like an off-season fat Ramy.
That's how I am. I mean, my face one day it can be bloated. I'm bloated right now, but bloated one day, 3 days later it can be leaner. I think our weight in our faces are just like constantly like people are just like, you look different in every single picture you post. And like, when is this? I'm like, that's like 2 days from there and 2 days from there. So, some people just carry.
Yeah. Forget that. I don't want to talk about. Let's talk about sickness and stuff like that. I want to talk about the fights you got on. You were yelling and screaming. I had my boys contacting me from Miami, from Los Angeles. They were all like, yo, man, you should have seen the Palumbo show. They were all yelling at each other and stuff. I'm like, guys, number one, you're going to hear the truth on Iron OGs, which we're about to do right now. Number two, there's text messages. There's video. What happened to this society when no one believes their eyes anymore? It's weird to me. It is. I think Trump literally has convinced people not to believe their own eyes. That's what it's gotten down to. So you go ahead and take over from here. What happened with the yelling?
So, we did our video on Patrick when we had the text, the videos, and all that. We just started our channel, King. What is this? This is what episode? 16th. Okay. So we've been doing it once a week. We missed a week because I was in Turkey or whatever, and I think we missed another week because of Christmas and all that. So I think we were the first channel, I think, to actually post all the footage of the Patrick talking to the cops and all that. So we did that, and then I'm home one night, and I was literally watching the Chiefs play because one of my best friends, he put $50K down on the Chiefs. And I was gonna put some money down, like maybe like 5 or something like that. I'm not a bettor. I don't like to bet, but I was gonna put like 5, but I didn't. I should have. But he put $50K, so I was watching the game. I was kind of dozing off, and then I was like reading a book afterwards, and I was dozing off because my wife, she still works at the hospital, but PRN, and she was at work. So I was exhausted. And Dave texted me. He was like, "Hey, I know it's last minute. Do you want to come on like Heavy Muscle Radio and talk about the Patrick situation?" So I'm assuming Aceto's going to be on there, and Aceto's coaching Patrick or whatever, like you said. And I went on, and I was tired as shit. I'm tired right now, but I was really tired. So I got on, and we start talking, and Chris right off the bat is just kind of like being extremely biased because Patrick is his client, and he's talking with not knowing any of the information at all. And I'm telling him, me and King have already done the whole video and all the text and we did it all already. And so then Patrick starts texting Aceto during it. And it's funny because a couple of my black buddies messaged me. They're like, Aceto wants to be a black guy because he defends black. I mean, he's married to a black woman, Muslim, and all that, and whatever. And his black kids, I mean, not black kids, but his black clients and stuff like that. He just he didn't even know what was going on, bro, and he was just already in attack mode. And I have always had a lot of respect for Aceto. Even though you fall asleep listening to him, I've always had respect, just his knowledge in the sport and all that, So he starts attacking me right off the bat, and I'm just like, okay. And then Patrick comes on. I'm like, yeah, Patrick, come on. He let him tell the story. So Patrick rambles on for 40 minutes because he doesn't want to get to the snitching part. Okay. So King, I think at this point, Patrick knows there's videos of him talking to the cops, but he didn't know there was audio. Okay. Because he didn't see our channel yet. He just saw my Instagram video when he texted me. He's like, hey, run your shit, homie. Because he already don't like you because you said he should go to Classic, and he was crying about that. These guys are so sensitive these days. And so I get on, and it was like a setup. And I told Dave, I was like, Dave, I felt like you set me up, bro. He's like, well, I didn't know Patrick was going to go on. So Chris was like, why would you even do a story on that? I'm like, Chris, I explained it 5 times to Chris what the story was going on, and he still didn't understand it. And I was like, bro, I'm about to blow my brains out. I'm like, just sitting back like this. Then Patrick comes on, and he tells us his long, drawn out story. And then I finally get to the snitching part. And then Aceto's like, well, if the gym owner called the cops, it's game to snitch. And I'm like, oh, Chris, no. And then Dave, I saw Dave, dude. We talked after. I was like, and on the phone, he was like, I agree with you. I was like, bro, why didn't you say it on the phone? I felt like he was kind of sticking for Chris a little bit. And I was like, Dave, bro, he goes, Chris was the wrong. He goes, yeah, I know. And then we did a follow-up. We'll get to the heavy muscle radio part. But and then I eventually just shut down. I was being attacked by not attacked. I don't want to say oh, I'm a victim. I'm just sitting back I'm not going to go back and forth with Aceto and Patrick, and because they're all teamed up on me. I'm not just sit back because we already did our shit, King. If people didn't see our channel because they don't know we have our channel yet, it is what it is. But we already covered the subject extremely well. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, we did. And
we have the text.
And I said it several times. I said, this is the first time I'm seeing the videos. This is the first time I'm seeing the text messages. I am looking from the outside in. There is no bias. I just want to see what's going on. There's a couple of things that we have to talk about, and we did. And at the end, it all came down to owing somebody something and then snitching. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There you go. That's how it's done.
Right. And so Aceto's argument was so the gym owner called the cops. But listen, here's the deal. The gym owner said the gym owner's name's Patrick too, so it's confusing. So the gym owner says Patrick called the police. Patrick saying the gym owner called the police. Okay. So we reported on Patrick called the police. All right. So do we really know who called the police? No. Do I think Patrick or the gym owner did? No. I think just when a fight goes down at the gym, I've gotten in a fight at a gym before and someone called the police during the fight. I think someone at the gym called the police. Anyways, the police came out and there was the fight. Okay. So the whole argument was and then Dave was like, oh, Patrick wasn't there to fight and this and that. I'm like, dude, he showed up at the gym when the guy blocked his keypad already and said, they text messages and said, hey, let's run it back, homie. But the guy said, I have my kids in the car. So when Patrick tells his story, he says, let's run it back, homie. But he doesn't say, well, the guy says, I had the kids in the car too. So Patrick leaves shit out, And so they're telling me how I'm in the wrong and this and that. And all the comments are like, oh, they're got you, Armon, and this and that and all this. And I'm like, I don't even care at this point. I literally want to go to bed. I'm tired. So I just kind of sit back like that and be like, oh, you just let them get all over you and all that. And whatever. It is what it is. I'm not going to go back and forth because we already literally did the whole story.
Right.
So the next the next for Heavy Muscle Radio was
get to that one. Get to the Heavy Muscle.
After Hours was, I think, 2 days later. We talked about the subject on there again because Larry contacts the gym owner too because he wanted to know the story for his channel. And he talked to the gym owner also, got the whole story, sided with me, agreed with us completely. Like most everybody else that has any common sense. And I was really disappointed with Aceto. If that wasn't Aceto's client, Aceto wouldn't be going like that. You know what I mean? Going off like that. And so we got to talking, and we all agreed. Everybody was arguing at first. King disappeared. I'll wait for King to come back. There he is. All right. Lost you for a second.
I'm back.
All right. So we got on After Hours. And so all of us, John Romano, the whole whack pack or whatever. So we're all talking about the situation. Dave and John are arguing about, we've said before about how we think, gyms should work and all that. Dave and John are arguing about that for like 40 minutes. And then Larry's in it because he's a gym owner. John's been a gym owner. And I think someone else was a gym owner. Or Greg Valentino was a gym owner for a little bit. And so Dave was just like, if they're a pro, you should let them in free, blah, 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 this and this and this. So we've talked about it before. I agree to a certain extent. Pro cards are given out like candy. So if the pros bringing people to the gym, that's one thing. But Patrick, I think, had like 3 clients there. Okay. And so that was the whole argument for a while. And then we got into the whole story because all the other guys really didn't know. And then I got amped up because we were talking about the snitching part and everybody agreed. And then Dave kept saying, well, the story. I'm like, Dave, that's Patrick's story. That's not the truth. Right. I sent you the videos, Dave, to play, but you didn't play the audio. He goes, well, I couldn't hear him. I was like, they played perfectly on our channel. So I don't know if he's trying to protect Chris or not, during that whole
watch out, buddy. That's an obvious.
Right. They've been friends for a long time. So Aceto was just, lost his mind. And I lost all respect for him. And so, but in the next day, okay, so the next day after, the Aceto and Patrick, we were all on together. Well, Patrick's texted me right after that thing, and he's like, hey, do you have the audio? I said, yes. And I sent him the 2 videos of audio. And then he just sent a fist bump back. So King, he didn't even know the audio was out of him snitching. He just thought we just saw him talking to the cops and that was a word on the street. Right. Now I sent him like, dude, yeah, you're on audio. And the cops was friends with the gym owner. They work out there, King. And, let's be real. The gym owner probably helps the cops out with gear and all that. Like that's what I heard through some other people and all that.
Yeah. Let me do a timeout here real quick. I'm going to do little sub things in between all this to all the kids and all the people that are watching this. And I know that our show is going to blow the fuck up. The more every week it's getting bigger and bigger. So let me put these things out there too. The cops don't care about gear. 99% of the cops that I've ever met in my life are on gear. They don't care. To them, they don't hear no evil, see no evil. So don't worry about that. They don't give a shit about who's using. They care about the person who's selling, 90 kits at a time and this and that. They don't care about the person who's taking it. So get that out of your minds, people. Okay, when the cops are here, cops don't care. 90, like I said, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but 99.9% of the cops that I know now and I've met throughout my life, they're all on gear and they don't give a shit about this stuff. Go. Right.
So when the cops are called about a fight, why is Patrick telling? Okay, it's not like a fight happens, so Patrick starts snitching that the gym owner sells gear. It's not like the cops going to be like, okay, gym owner, put your hands behind your back because this guy says they're selling gear. What would happen?
It was a scrap.
Right.
And on the video, the gym owner is in the middle of the street calling him out. So Patrick should have just said, he called me out. I kicked his ass. Done. That's
well,
it.
King,
Adios.
Patrick shouldn't have showed up to fight anyway.
or that. or that.
So, you know, Pat, you owe the dude $900. You show up, you fight him, you get the best of him, and then you stitch on the cop.
900 Armon. And people thought that I was like trying to show off when I said I spent 900 on dinner. I did spend 900 on dinner. We were at a steakhouse in the Hamptons. It was 4 of us. I spent 900 for. What is the point? The point that me and Armon are trying to make is, come on. What's that show on ESPN? Come on, man.
Yeah, I think Patrick needs to go to the gay bars and shake it a little bit in cash. If you don't have $900 to pay someone, that's pretty bad.
Jesus Christ,
$900. But dude, 3 other gym owners texted me and said, dude, he did the same thing in my gym, and then he just went to the next gym. You know, and people thought I was friends with this gym owner. I'm like, I don't even know this gym owner. This dude literally contacted me. So people made all these false narratives like Chris Aceto and Patrick. And so when we were on Heavy Muscle Radio, we got it all out there. Larry told the story too, and it was all cleared up. And then Dave was still saying, well, you know, Patrick said the guy called the cops. Like, Dave, it don't matter. The guy didn't call the cops, but even if he did, you don't tell someone on steroids and then Chris Aceto's like, there's no code, there's no bro code. And this is bro, if Chris Aceto is my coach and he's telling people it's okay to stitch on people in gear, I'm not going to hire Chris Aceto. So the next day, Chris Aceto makes a post on his Instagram saying like, like since Patrick was a boxer, it's like Patrick knocked out that guy, and Patrick's second knockout was Armon in the interview, because I just shut down because I was over it. I didn't want to go back and forth and argue. People were like, oh, Armon's scared of Patrick. Bro, if you know me, I'm not scared of anybody at all with my past. And so I was just done.
Yeah.
It's kiddie stuff. We're grown men. So and I kept, so I got heated, and everybody agreed on the panel that Patrick was in the wrong. And then Dave agreed too at the end. He's like, Patrick shouldn't have done this, but he's still, I don't know what's going on with Dave that day, man. I was like, let Dave. Aceto really messed up, and all the respect I had for Aceto went out the window, because Aceto's not going to apologize to me. I already know him. He's not going to be like, hey man, I'm sorry. I looked at the whole situation. I was wrong. Whatever. Maybe Patrick might not pay him for the show, and maybe he'll get whatever. Who knows? But it was a heated argument. I was yelling because I was mad. As bodybuilders, we have all taken gear, sold gear, even if it's 1 bottle or 1,000 bottles. Hey, buddy, I'll get you a bottle test. Of course, we don't do that now. We're professionals. We're coaches. We don't do that stuff. We don't want to go to jail. So I said, if anybody is in this bodybuilding community, and Patrick like, well, I'm not a part of this bodybuilding community. I got in this late and this at the game. I'm like, and he's saying he's from the streets and he's a street dude. And, once someone calls the cop, anything goes. So his snitching was okay. Like, Patrick, you're delusional. Chris Aceto, you're freaking delusional. And I was just yelling on there like, dude, snitching, you're a bitch. Like, if you do that. And everybody agreed on the panel. Greg Valentino, Larry, Mr. G, Amin, John Romano, and then Dave finally at the end was like, yeah, after kind of defending Chris Aceto for a little bit and all that.
Oh, listen, like we said at the beginning of this, he's a little biased. Chris is biased because that is his client, and that's understandable. He wants to defend his client, but don't get mad at the person who's reporting things. Don't get mad at the person who's got text messages and video. Again, we're going to end it with this. I was an outsider, even though this is our show, looking in, and I was seeing live the videos for the first time, the text messages for the first time, and it was pretty obvious that what had gone down. Forget it, Armon. We report the news just like everybody else does. That's it. They had a fight. They had a scrap. One of them snitched. The other one said is a punk for doing what he did. Okay, done. It's over with. Let's move on.
Right. And I told people, I said, listen, if y'all watched the casino thing, go watch me and King Kamali's thing, because a lot of people don't know we have the channel yet. And I was trying to say that on the channel, but every time I did, Dave kind of interrupted me. I was like, okay, but so I was like, we already ran this shit. Me and King had all the information. The gym owner contacted me. We ran this shit. I'm on here doing this all over again, and Chris, don't know what's going on. He's just listening to Patrick, and I was tired of Chris's voice. Is like, but why are you even posting this stuff and this and that? Because we're a channel and we're doing bodybuilding news, and this is like the trending subject, obviously, Chris, dummy.
All right. So let it go.
It's done.
We already covered it. It's old news. Good luck at the Arnold. I wish you the best.
Right.
All right. Let's get to the subject of today, brother. What's the subject of today?
All right. So we got, early through 2000 bodybuilders versus today. And then we'll get to the supposedly trans. And I got some clarification on that, but we'll get to that. So let's go over the insulin abuse. Okay. So we've talked about insulin before, King. And, I know, Chad was your coach, and you told me what Chad had you do. I had other friends who was coached by Chad. Chad had them doing insulin a lot more than you told me that you did. I never used insulin much. I used it a few times. I would do it in the off season, like 8. I used like twice a day, and then a couple shows I would like carb up with insulin. And then with my clients, I'll use some insulin in the off season. Sometimes I'll do it, for a period of time, or sometimes I'll do it on leg and back day. I'm not a big fan of insulin, because I think it can ruins a lot of physiques more than it helps them, I think, because people, get fat on it. It kind of, distorts physiques. They grow too fast, and you know how it is. And so, back then, y'all all used insulin, right? Everybody pretty much did. Some didn't.
Yeah. Well, me personally, it didn't start with Chad. It started with Amin. Amin, the first person who taught Don Long, Craig Titus, me, all the bodybuilders from the DMV area. Amin was the one who started us out. And his philosophy and his protocol was, way, way different than it is now. At the beginning, it was, we experimented with N, we experimented with L, we experimented with R. We did the whole thing, timing and all the things that you can possibly imagine. Then finally, Amin put the other ones aside. We stuck with the fast one, and we only did it after we finished working out. And then afterwards, we had to eat, and then 45 minutes later, eat again. So it was Amin that started all that. I want to give credit where credit's due, number one. Number two, Chad wasn't like, he might have changed his philosophy, but when I was with him during the time of Nasser, Flex, Kevin, Paul, Ronnie, and then he didn't say to do it in the off season. He didn't want me to. Like, to him, it was like, King, you already got to 300 pounds without it. And that's just from food, because him telling me to eat. If you did any more, it would be detrimental to your health. So I was like, okay, we don't want to do that. And then when I wanted to carb up for a show, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, that's the only time that we really hammered it. And for the Olympia, the Arnold, all that stuff. That was the protocol that I had with Chad when it came to insulin. And back then, we didn't have Humalog until later. We did R. Now it's Humalog.
Yeah. So, Ronnie at the time, he was using about 100 IUs, because when he came out to the gym and showed us a program and shows my coach at the time. So Chad had Ronnie doing something totally different. Everybody's body is different, whatever. That's between, them. But today, though, kids are using insulin. Bikini girls are using insulin. Men's physiques are using insulin. And, a lot, Lantus is really popular. They're 24 acting insulin. So they'll do like 100 Lantus a day, and they'll do like, Humalog with every meal. So some of these guys are doing 200 IUs of insulin a day. King.
That's
crazy.
Insane. Yeah, that's
insane. Because they're using such insane growth hormone levels. When they're using 20 to 30 IUs of growth hormone levels, of course that's going to shoot your blood sugar insanely through the roof, and you're going to become a diabetic if you don't use insulin, right?
Yeah.
So they have to balance it out.
Who's that bodybuilder that just died? He was like considered the biggest bodybuilder. He really tatted up. He just
Golem.
Okay. See, If you want to look like that, okay, that's the protocol to follow. So let's get that straight right now to all those people out there. If you want that crazy, oh my God, he's the biggest, like a walking Viking with, yes. But at the end of that rainbow is death. You have
He was
to.
also key. He was also using the Rich Piana protocol with the PMA, and so he was loading up all his muscles with the filler too. So
and all of that goes under one umbrella, man. And the umbrella is that social media. I try to look like a walking, cartoon character. That's again, the title of what we're talking about this week, the early 2000s, which people to this day will still say is the greatest time in bodybuilding of all ever. And to the guys now who are walking giant monster puffballs.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people will say like, oh, the guys were lying back then. They used the same amount. No, they didn't. We had a certain, I know you're 10 years ahead of me, but we had a certain protocol. Like when I started using GH, I started with 2 IUs. Even Dave had me using like 3 to 4 IUs while he was helping me out. It wasn't until I met Hani when I bumped it up to 8 IUs. But I thought 8 IUs was like, man, this is a lot. And then now they're starting out not even on the national level, like novice level. These guys are banging 10 IUs of insulin, like, because most of them are giving the Chinese kids with 10 IUs in each bottle. And some of the sources are good because I have clients and friends on them, but they're banging a whole 10 IUs. They're like, man, I can't sleep. My hands and this. I'm like, yeah, you don't need that much. Their blood sugar's through the roof. And I'm like, you need to check your blood sugar. So I always tell people, like, I don't have my clients do that, but I have some clients taking a little higher GH because I explain the risks and everything. And I'm like, yeah, this is your choice. If you want to do that, if you're going to do that without me and not tell me, I'd rather tell you how to do it the right way. So I do have clients taking, like 10 IUs and a couple clients taking like 15 IUs a day. And I tell them like, hey, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. Their feet grow a couple sizes. Their forehead's out to here. Their nose is triple in size. Their elbows, all that kind of stuff, over the years, just a little bit of growth hormone that I've used, I felt I've got a little growth maybe in maybe head and nose a little bit. It happens. You use a little bit of growth hormone, your face is going to grow a little bit. Even when you age, your face is going to look different. So people's like, why don't you look the same way as then? I'm like, dude, I was 20 there. I'm in my early 40s now. You're going to look different. People are silly. So what these kids don't understand is we didn't even think that was okay back then to use. And we came off the gear. And so when they say like, all those guys are lying, they used all, no, they didn't. There was a few crazy ones, maybe like Nasser. You knew Nasser, but some say his protocols are insane or other people, but no, there was different standards.
Nasser's protocol became insane. It evolutioned into insane because he started to slip. And when he was slipping in his placings and where his status in the IFBB, what he did is he compensated by increasing the gear. Okay? There's nobody on this planet that loves Nasser and respected him and mentored by him than me. We guest post together, we hung out together, we vacationed together. Nasser was an amazing person, but he just got to a point where, as smart as he was, as intelligent as he was, as gifted as he was, he just couldn't bear the fact that he's not Nasser anymore. He's not sitting on top of the world. He just started push. That's what happened to him at the end. But even that, the Mike Matarazzo, rest in peace, had one of the greatest quotes of all time when they asked him about steroids. And his response to the person who asked him during a meeting, he said, I guarantee you that there's people in the audience that are more shit than we are on stage. And that was at the show. And he was right. And I'll testify to that. He's absolutely right. There's people. I knew a guy who took 100 Anadrol in a week. 100. And he didn't gain 1 pound. And then he, this is fake. This is fake. And I was like, dude, it's not. You don't know what you're doing, and you don't have the genetics for this. And this is what we're going to get to that too. It's on the list. But this is another dream killer for these kids. You have to go with your genetics, and we'll talk about that some more. I took 30 tabs of Anadrol, 1 a day. That was my first cycle. one a day. I gained 62 pounds in 40 days. 62 pounds. Yeah. I had freaking lightning bolts of stretch marks going here on my legs, my glutes, my calves had stretch marks. My father said, "Oh my God, what's wrong? What happened to you?" I was like, I'm just eating. No, it's just called genetics. Please don't kill yourselves with these ridiculous cycles, because I guarantee you, and you're going to hear me say it now, and I hate saying shit like this, but I'm going to say it. We just got into 2025. I guarantee you there'll be at least 20 to 25 deaths this year. Watch.
Absolutely. And we could say it till we're blue in the face to certain people. And the guy, when you're like 170 pounds and you're loaded up on grams and grams of gear and tons of GH and insulin, and you still weigh like 180, it's got to be pretty frustrating. And some of the guys are eating like 7 meals a day too. Some people aren't meant to be big, King. I mean, they just don't have it in their genetics, and people have got to understand, no matter what you do, you're never going to look like a King Kamali. You're never going to look like a Lee Priest. It's not going to happen no matter what you do.
On the other side of the coin, no matter what I do, I'm never going to be Saquon Barkley. I'm never going to be able to jump over a 6-foot guy in a football game backwards. No, he's a genetic freak when it comes to football. This is the whole point. You got to go with I'm never going to be Kobe Bryant. It just goes on, and you have to understand genetics is the most powerful force in the world, and work with it. Don't fight it.
Yeah, I told all my friends when we were all coming up and bodybuilding together, and I was helping all them out, and I surpassed, and they were training and working out before me. They were all bigger than me, and I surpassed them like within 6 months. And they're like, "What are you?" I'm like, "I'm not taking anything other than you're taking." So they like double their dose and triple their dose, and they still were smaller than me. I was like, I just have it in me. And all the older guys at the gym said, "Dude, you got to compete. You put on muscle easily." And I didn't know anything about like bodybuilding at the time or how to even get into it. There wasn't social media where you could go hire 1,000 coaches or people just willing to give you information. You'd find an old school guy at the gym, hey, maybe help you out, guide you a little bit to, maybe do a show you had a mean. I had a guy named Armon, which, he would burn a lot of muscle off, but still he taught me a lot of stuff about, competing. But these guys today, it's just a lot of people do lie. Yes. Today, there's a lot of fake natties. We get it. But a lot of the old school guys, some of them do probably lie. But like Lee Priest and the whole Keon comparison thing, like this little influencer on TikTok started, running his mouth, about the comparison. I'm like, listen, if you didn't see, you can't compare pictures. If you didn't see Lee Priest in person at the gym or on the stage, you don't understand what he looked like. I've seen Keon in person at the gym here. I've seen Lee Priest on stage. I've seen Lee Priest in the gym. Lee Priest was taking probably 1/30 of what Keon's taking. Can you agree to probably that?
Yeah, and plus it's a two complete, like you just said it very clearly. You can't compare people until you see them standing next to each other on stage. That's when you can really do the proper comparison. There's a reason why if you go on YouTube and you see Cutler videos, he always says the same thing. When they ask him, which bodybuilder shocked you the most? He goes, without a question, Lee Priest. Jay says it all the time. He goes, when I went to Muscle, first time I went to Gold's Gym in Venice, I saw Lee Priest. I'm like, that's not possible. How's that? And I kind of had that same feeling when I competed against him at my pro debut at the Ironman. I saw him backstage pumping up, and I looked over at Bob Chick, and I was like, what the fuck? He goes, he goes, King, but you're conditioned. He's not. He said he's a little off today. I'm like, but that is a little cartoon character. He goes, yeah, he's something else, isn't he? I'm like, oh, yeah, Lee's something else.
And the criterias were a little different, too. People got to understand, like, today, the guys are bigger. They carry more muscle, but it doesn't mean they look better, back then the waists were smaller. The muscles look different. There's more fibers in it. Today, everybody's oiled up everywhere. They have all this roundness, but no striations. And there's different criteria. So that's a weird comparison, like Lee, of course, I think Lee, of course, was a better bodybuilder. But if Lee was like, let's say Lee was competing today with Keon or whatever, and Lee was, even bumped up his drugs even a little bit, it would be even scarier. But Lee didn't need to do that because that's what worked for Lee. And, I know Craig Titus took a shitload of stuff because I competed against a kid Craig used to prep, and I used to beat him at 2 shows, and he would tell me like everything Craig did and all that. They would hang out and all that bullshit. I'm sure you know too because you were in that whole circle, and I know you were best friends with Craig.
After I won the collegiate nationals, that's when Craig saw me on stage and said, "Who did your conditioning?" I said, "Amin," and that's when he hired Amin. And then Craig was getting ready for the USAs. I saw him, and I went to Amin's apartment, and I knocked, and it was Craig was sitting on the couch. He goes, "Hey, what's up? What's up?" I walked in, and there were 7 syringes lined up, and 3 on the outer quads, 1 here. I mean, I to me that was like, oh my God, because at that point, all the injections I took was suspension and primo. That's it, you know.
Yeah.
So it was like it was a culture shock when I saw him. I'm like, is that what I need to do to take it to the next level? And you know, that's when I eventually started to understand what chemical warfare really was.
Yeah, you know, the kid I competed against that Craig was prepping, he was like, yeah, when he would hang out with Craig and prep with him and train with him, like, yeah, they would go to the gym. Craig would go to the restroom. He would shoot a ton of Nubane, and then he would inject like 3 cc's of Suston in one calf and another 3 cc's of like EQ or DECA in another calf. And I'm like, that's crazy. Why are you doing it at the gym anyways? I never understood why people did their injections at the gym anyways. Like, you know, do it at home.
All right, so we discussed insulin. That was number 1, the difference between the 2000s and now. Number 2, we discussed drugs have doubled.
Yeah.
Sometimes even tripled. We discussed that. Number 3, we didn't have SARMs and we didn't have fucking all these peptides. I think that's number 3 on the list. That's another difference. It's making all that's still in the experimental phase. These SARMs and these peptides, they're effective, okay, but they are changing the physiques.
Yeah. I think, you know, a lot of these peptides, you know, first of all, you don't really know what you're getting all these companies because they're being sold for research. So you got guys, and, you know, I was sponsored by peptide companies before, and I did a test on myself, and I was taking all these different growth hormone releasing peptides, and it still didn't equal, like, I would say I was taking like a lot of peptides, maybe 4 different growth hormone releasing peptides, and it still didn't equal like to 3 or to 4 IUs of growth hormone was more effective. So the peptides, you got to take more throughout the day. Of course, there's great ones like the healing ones like TB and BBC. I think those are really good for certain injuries, and, you know, the tanning peptide and the GRHP6 to help your appetite and all that. And then, yeah, the SARMs, like, you know, I'm not a huge fan of SARMs like we talked about before. Like some females, I think they work better, like we both agreed on, but I'm not a huge fan of SARMs. But a lot of times when people are getting these SARMs, they really don't know what's in them. Is even Osterin, is even RAD? We don't really know.
Yeah, that's a great point you're making right there. You got to know you have to have a really good source to know exactly what you're getting and you're putting in your body. And if it doesn't scare people right now to know that, you know, it just the tiniest microbe of fentanyl can kill you. So back in the day, when we go to Sound Factory, we go to Saatchi, we go to Liquid in Miami, somebody sold you a pill. Okay, thank you. You take it, you roll for about 2-3 hours. Right now, you're literally playing Russian roulette if you try to play. That's why, unfortunately or fortunately, however we want to look at it, clubbing is done. Those days are done. The raves and the partying at the Sound Factory till, you know, for 11 hours straight and stuff. You can't, because you're playing Russian roulette at that point. Right now, you're either life or death. Back when for us it was just fun and tripping out a little bit. Now it's life and death.
You know, these festivals today, they have a lot of people there, like at certain booths, they have drug tester kits. So they'll literally, you know, test your drugs for you to make sure, like, you know, if you have ecstasy or coke or whatever, they'll make sure there's no fentanyl in there, because, you know, you take ecstasy pill or whatever, you're going to be dead if there's fentanyl in there. You know, if you have no, you know, this comment, we already talked about all the rules for the pros on the other episode. So go check our other episode of Iron OGs. We did a whole episode on that, brother. Is Chris Instagram still post up about you? I haven't checked in a few days, but I'm sure it is. I don't think he would take it down. So, yeah. But all right. So
that's number 3.
what else?
Sarms.
Yeah.
Number 4 on our list.
Lazy bodybuilders.
Bodybuilders, man. Good Lord have mercy. I mean, this is so bad now. So bad. The laziness, not wanting to put in the effort, not wanting to get under the squat rack to do 400-pound front squats, not willing to do the Milos giant set, throw up, come back again. I don't see that. I don't see it. I don't see it in the gym anymore. There was a time where I used to go to the gym and I would see people throwing up on corners of the gym. And I mean, none of that. It's all gone, man.
Yeah, they don't suffer. First of all, diet. Well, the gym, I never see people going. I remember going to the gym and just training balls to the wall, and I'm just like pouring sweat. I'm just I don't see that. Even the pros that Dallas, we have a lot of pros here. I don't see any of them training like that, King.
Yeah.
And
well,
then
you go on their YouTube pages and their Instagram and their TikToks, and you see these Brazilian girls with 405, strict form down, coming back up really slow, and afterwards they're not breathing heavy. They're fake weights.
Right.
People, they are fake weights. No girl is squatting 405 without struggling. That's you're living in fantasy land when it comes to that. So that's on the list too. We'll get to that too. But yeah, just the pure laziness. It's sad, and it's hard to explain. I mean, it's just because I still think that the social media and all that stuff that we see every day, that's what did it. And these kids are listening to the wrong people.
Yeah, I mean, you have a client, they're like, oh my gosh, I feel so tired, I can't even get out of bed. I'm like, you're supposed to feel like that. If you don't suffer, if you don't feel like shit, you have the rare people that feel pretty good. I've prepped some people before and they felt pretty good on prep all the time, but most people, especially people understand, the more muscle you have, the harder it is to carry that muscle around when you get lean. Agreed?
Yes.
And so, when you have to suffer to get that conditioning, they're like, well, isn't there something I can just take instead? I'm like, you're already taking Clin, you're already taking T3. What do you mean is there something else you could take? You got to do your freaking cardio.
Yeah, and I always tell people, they're like, how do you know you're suffering enough? I'm like, when you start contemplating your life, okay, when you're sitting down and you're thinking to yourself, what am I doing on this planet? What's my that's when you've reached the chambers of hell, the seventh or eighth chamber of hell. When you start contemplating what you're doing with your life, I mean, or you're paranoid to the point where you don't even, like, I used to drive like this because I'm like, 1 week out to the Olympia, I'm not going to crash my car. And I used to talk to myself. When you start losing your mind, that's when you're suffering and you're in that phase.
And then, I used to get insane conditioning too. And I couldn't, like the last few weeks, I couldn't really talk. I mean, I remember I was taking community college classes and I would drop out because my brain couldn't even function to take tests and stuff. And so, and I couldn't like really have conversations with people because my brain was so just done with from, the extreme dieting.
Armon, my gym manager back at my gym in Tyson's Corner when I was getting ready for the Olympia, his name was JC, big black guy, and always somewhere around 3 weeks to 2 weeks out, he would always be like, King, I need to talk to you for a second. And then I would get up and I'll walk over to him and he's like, we just had a complaint, man. I'm like, what? He's like, some lady just complained that said that that's disgusting what you have on your glutes. It's grossing her out. And then I look at him. He's like, you're doing real good. Keep it up. And then I'll go back and I'll continue. I used to wear white spandex, and you could see the striations when I was walking on the treadmill. You could see the striations. Apparently, some old ladies thought it was disgusting. So JC used to say, okay, you're getting closer, man. Keep it going.
Yeah.
Start complaining. So when they started complaining about me, I knew I was getting close to that look.
That was a compliment. If people said, "Ooh, that's disgusting," you're like, "Yes, I'm doing it right."
Yeah, that's the best compliment a bodybuilder can get.
Yeah. All right.
So 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 5, fake gear. Take it away, Armon. Take it away.
Okay, so luckily when you were competing, I was competing. We had sources that we knew we were getting real stuff at that time. I was getting a lot of stuff from Mexico. So at that time, all the Mexico, because Texas, whatever, we'd go across the border, bring it back, or we had people do it. And all the gear was really good at that time. And it was cheap, paying $15 for a bottle of Tess, $20 for a bottle of EQ or Deca or whatever. So after Operation Gear Grinder, then everything's had to start coming from like China and Europe or whatever. People started, home brewing stuff a lot. And I used some homebrew stuff before. And the first time I used homebrew Trin, I got the worst infection in my quad because my body was so used to using clean gear. And then you got everybody today buying, the cheapest gear possible they can get. I always tell clients, like, listen, whatever you're taking, it's not real. They're like, no, the guy I get it from, he says he gets it from a chemist that brews. I'm like, dude, chemists are not making gear. Chemists are working for Snapple or a company or making, like, they're legit. They're not home brewing up freaking gear. There might be one here and there, but you could literally it's easy to make gear. All my friends were brewing gear. I never did it because I'm like, I'm not going to get my house raided. And I lived with my parents for a while too when I was younger. I think you did too. I mean, Ronnie and household, my dad was Ron.
Because we're family orientated. That's why.
Right. We loved our family. And I was like, I'm going to move out. Mom and dad was like, no, baby, why are you leaving? Stay here. I'm like, okay. I loved being at home. And I know you probably did too. So, these kids, they brew this shit. And people's got to understand, it's not only the gear is fake. There's been a lot tested. There's heavy metals in it. I mean, they have found arsenic in gear. I mean, it's being shipped from China in bulk. Do you think these Chinese people really care about Americans? A lot of them hate us.
Yeah, true.
And like I said, I mean, go ahead.
Armon, I would get mine from the pharmacy. I would get my growth hormone straight from the lab that made it in dry ice. Yep. I dealt with the same person for 22 years when it came to getting my stuff. And when it came to the Cytodrin, the Cytomil, that stuff, I had RX Ali. I'm not going to say when. I'm going to keep that a secret, but I had one guy. His name was RX Ali. Once a year, I gave him a list, went to where he worked. He met me in the parking lot, gave me a huge fucking bag, handed it to me. I handed him the cash, all straight off the pharmacy shelf in this bag. Done. That's how we did it. So I feel bad, man. I feel bad.
Yeah, I mean, I had since I worked in the gay scene and all that, I had a lot of gay friends and HIV and all that. They were prescribed growth hormone, they were prescribed Anadrol, they were prescribed Anavar, they were even prescribed halotestin. So knowing like 20 of them, I got all my stat from them. And then I had my doctor, he would prescribe my Arimidex. He would prescribe, I didn't really use T3 that much. I didn't need it. But he would prescribe, whatever else I needed. And then the other stuff, whether, Trin or stuff you would get I would get, from Europe and the ampules and all that kind of stuff. So we were taking all that stuff. And these guys today, when I hear people taking, I'm taking 2 grams of Trin a week, I'm like, that can't be real. If it is, you got to feel like total dog shit.
Yeah, you puffing your lungs up.
Even when the classic guy Peterson, when he passed away, he died, I guess, the day before his show. When they did his autopsy, literally only, I think, 3 compounds were found in his system. So that just shows you he wasn't on 3 compounds. He was on a full cycle. All the other stuff he was taking was faked. So even, a lot of people think all these guys and these pros today are getting top grade gear. No, a lot of them are struggling. And a lot of them, hit me up. They're like, hey, I have this connect. Can you help me? I'm like, no, I don't deal with that at all.
I went to compete at the Ironman. I was staying with Milos, and he looked at my little orange box, and he looked at it, and his eyes started popping up for one of the things that was in there. And he goes, where'd you get that halotestin? I said, I got it from a pharmacy. He goes, it's impossible. I said, check it out. And he took it. That green mist came off of it, and the green powder came off on his face. And he's looking at it. He goes, where the fuck did you get this? where the fuck did you get this? I'm like, I told you, Milos, I have the best fucking connections in the world.
Yeah.
That's real fucking halotestin right there, man.
Yeah.
But
I used to get it from CVS. I mean, my doctor would write it for CVS. They would have 5 milligram tablets at that time. They still, they don't, I don't think they prescribe it anymore, but at that time I was competing. I got my halotestin from CVS pharmacy. So, all right.
good.
What's next, King?
We discussed number 6 will be zero carbs. I said zero carbs / suffering. We did the suffering part. It's the zero carbs, man. Let me explain to you. Let us explain to you guys what we're talking about. Low carbs now is considered 250 grams. I've seen the cycles. I've seen the diets. I've talked to a lot of people. The girls, they've sent me their things. I see it. Ours was zero carbs, nada. Low was 50. Zero keto days was 0. High carb day was 150. That's it. 150. Yeah. It was so easy. All I did was use rice cakes. It was easy. Each rice cake was 17, 18 grams of carbs. So I would manage.
I think 7. I think 7.
Yeah, there you go. I would manage all my rice carbs, all my rice cakes for the day. I'm like, this is all my carbs for the day. So I would be like this. I'll go to the Lebanese restaurant, get 2 skewers of chicken, grilled with garlic. I'll come back and I would sit there in the corner with my rice cakes. And the guy used to just look at me every day and just shake his head. Just shake his head like this, looking at me.
Weirdo.
Like this, like hands are shaking, eating my rice cakes. But that is called suffering. Okay? Those low fucking carbs.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, yeah, I'm doing keto today, and I get their diet. I'm like, you have like 200 or 300 grams of carbs on there. I don't think you're in ketosis. You might want to check, do a strip test and check, keto is usually 0 carbs, but yeah. Okay, we already talked. We talked about the lack of training intensity. We talked about that earlier. Let's get to this whole competitor. So it was reported that it was a trend. I think we're going to be able to pull it up on the screen here, but we reported that it was a trans girl competing. So this competition was in California. So it's Tarek's, their competition, muscle contest. And apparently they didn't have the women's categories there for her to pose, where there was bodybuilding or women's physique. So she just decided they let her compete in the men categories and put just pasties on her nipples. I mean, so it wasn't a trans. Okay, let's look at it here real quick.
Yeah, it's okay. Let's look at it first.
It grosses me out, bro, to be honest with you.
Hold on, let's look at it first. Okay, that right there, she's got a stallion for glutes. That's female.
Yeah. That's a female butt.
Yeah, that's female butt, and that is a girl.
Yeah.
Okay, and I am going to agree with you 1,000%. It's disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
It's disturbing, and this is why you have people like Trump winning. This is why you have all these conservative podcasts going through the roof, and this is why, because this is disturbing. I just don't. I don't know how else to say it, man. I don't agree with it at all.
Kids are in the audience, man. You got what is that? Okay, so it wasn't a trans, but you got a girl that's doing the guys division for whatever reason. If you're a girl, why are you able to even enter the guys division? You should be like, if when we were competing, they'd be like, no, you can't enter a guys division if you're a girl.
Well,
so they just
NPC show. If it's an NPC show, and if I remember correctly, the rules of the NPC states, it doesn't matter how big the show is or how small the show is. You have to have enough trophies to cover every division. Even if you have to throw away 50 fucking trophies at the end,
right?
You still have to have those trophies for the people that are going to register that day. They recommend you to register a week before, and it's a lot cheaper. They make it so much cheaper so you do it so they understand how many trophies and all that. But the NPC rules state you got to have, if you're going to have a teenage division, you got to have trophies for everything. You got to have this. You got to have that. I don't understand that. This one, I don't get.
Yeah, I mean, like people that said it was trans. So I guess I don't give into all that, names anyways. I'm not going to entertain all these different genders or whatever. There's a male and the female to me. That's it.
100%.
If you're doing all that other shit, you need to get mental help. If you're a child, if you're a kid and you want to be a boy or girl and you're of the other sex, there's something wrong. You need counseling to figure where that's coming from to get help. You don't go take. I mean, that's those. There's so many people that has transitioned, and then they came out about it and they said, "Listen, I ruined my life. I ruined my body. I ruined my health." You got females taking all this testosterone; it makes them mentally ill. You got the men. When your estrogen levels are high, you feel a little depressed and bitchy, and that's how most men feel. And men are just shooting themselves full of estrogen so they can grow little, boobs and all that. It's not how God made us, and it's not right. And to give into all that, but apparently she wasn't a trans. She was just a woman that they let compete in the men, and they just posting some pasties on, hey, I'm doing a double bicep and my boobies are just weird, dude. Weird.
Wrong. Totally disagree. They should not have done
Not,
it.
not okay.
No, not okay at all.
Let's get into a few questions. Armon, your hairline looks good. What do you think of it so far? The results too early to tell. Yeah. So what happens? It's already falling out. It will fall out first, the first 3 months, and then after the first 3 months, it starts growing back in from month like 3 to month like 12 to 14. So you don't really see the results till like a year later, unfortunately. So I've been out of the gym 4 weeks. I got another week to go. Then I can get back in the gym, and I'm ready to and all that. So, would you consider to do wrap ups with Aceto? No, Chris. Really, Chris. I would need an apology from Chris. Chris, was ridiculous. If anybody watched that whole ordeal, he was one sided. He didn't know the information, and then he goes stirs up stuff the next day making that silly post. If Chris apologized, which I don't think he is, because Chris thinks he's probably right for some whatever reason. No, I mean, Chris, we used to do wrap-ups before at shows in Texas, like literally in person. No, I'm not, Chris, I lost my respect for Chris. Chris would have to say, hey, dude, I ran it back, I looked at it, and I'm in the wrong. And then, of course, I would, if someone apologizes, I'm going to forgive them, whatever, So, but no, I'm not going to do wrap-ups with Chris. So. Aceto is a lib, LOL. Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's a lefty. Yeah, that's fine. Whatever. Hey, geez, Cutler. This is for you, King. I want to hear more about Aceto's protocols being dangerous. I made a little just mention. Well, I'll just say Chris is pretty aggressive with the diuretics. I'll just say that. I'm not going to get into anything more than that. Armon King, Dave is a pioneer on insulin before Amin. So he's saying Dave was into insulin before Amin. I don't know.
I have no idea.
Physiques were better than early. Yeah, that's what we talked about earlier. Yeah, John. I know who John is. What's up, John? A cancer survivor. Awesome. Are those rumors of Aceto being crazy about diuretics true? He's drying out process. I've heard of it. Yeah. So I've got a few Aceto's clients, and yes, he's still very aggressive. I don't understand the rhyme or reason why he does the protocols like the 30 days out aldactone and then adding in Demodex and Lasix at the end. It dies that. It makes no sense to me. I'm not sure why he does it. And a lot of people, it's I'm not saying any information that's not known. The Washington Post did an article about him and talked about his dangerous protocols, and Shelby Starnes was in there too. Didn't Grimes do a big water drop overnight with Aceto? Is pretty crazy from what I heard. Yeah, when he competed in classic physique for whatever reason, he decided to. They lost like I think it was like 30 pounds in one day, King, or something like crazy like that. Do you remember that? I think it was like 20 or 30 pounds in a day. And you know what that does to you?
That's fucking dangerous, man.
Yeah, your kidneys, boom. He's lucky he's alive.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
you know,
The juice doesn't kill you, man. It's those diuretics.
yeah. Yeah, all that stuff's true. It is what it is. You know, that's so, you know, when you hire a coach, you've got to understand if they're telling you something to do. Like me and King, we're very light with diuretic use. Some clients we don't even use diuretics with. If you don't need it, you don't need it, you know.
There are some that need more, and there are some
Right?
that need less, and there are some people that are like fucking hummingbirds that need nothing. Look at
Right.
Scott Burnett and my boy Scott in Oklahoma, Tulsa. Doesn't need
Yeah.
it. He wakes up with freaking head to toe shredded without it.
Yeah. I know, you know, I would most of my shows I didn't use them. If I did, I would use like a quarter of a diazide or half a diazide, and that was it. It's King's world. We're just living in it.
That's right, baby.
King Kamali.
Anthony.
Mark, it's true. There are rumors he either kills the clients or hospitalizes them. Yeah, I mean, it's out there. We're not saying anything that's not out there. And the genes to not have any side effects to the PEDs. I don't know. Boston Lloyd, perfect example. I'll touch on that real quick since I was close friends with Boston. He actually, you know, Boston was very extreme with all his use, but when he used a certain peptide, I can't remember the exact peptide name, it was known to cause kidney failure in rats. And so you would spot inject it wherever you wanted to lose the fat at. So even though Boston was nuts, he still did blood work often. Okay. So he was injecting it in his lower back, right where your kidneys are at. Okay. This fat burning peptide. And within 2 months, his creatinine levels went into kidney failure. So he came out and he went on David's channel. He spoke about this peptide is what gave me kidney failure, because all these years I did all this gear and everything, and I've always done my blood work and my creatinine level, bun, and all that was perfectly fine. As soon as I did this peptide, my kidneys, you know, it destroyed my kidneys. So that's why you got to be careful with all this stuff, guys. You don't, this research stuff, you don't know what it is. So
yeah, he contacted me towards the end, asked me to come on his show, and I was very honest with him, and he appreciated it. I said, "Listen, you're a great kid, man. You know, and I'm congratulations on your wife and your child and all that stuff. But I don't agree with what you're doing. Please be careful." He said, "Well, I appreciate that, blah, blah, blah." And then next thing you know, he was gone.
So that's probably when me, Leo, and Boston were all doing the show then at that time, probably. Yeah. Yeah, bro. I would talk to him every night, and I would be like, Boston, because he was like talking about oxys, because he knew about my oxy experience and all that. I'm like, Boston. He's like, yeah, I just ordered these oxys, and you know, how do you shoot it up? And I'm like, I'm not telling you how to do that. and I'm like, dude, as soon as you shoot an oxy IV, it's done. Once you get that feeling of like this warm cloud or this warm fuzzy cloud hugging you from like, it's different than taking orally. It's a different feeling. It's better. It feels better than from most addicts than actually like coming. So I'm like, do not do it. Of course he still did. And he got addicted to oxys at the end too. You know. All right. We would gain 20 to 30 pounds in 12 weeks doing Russian Sustanon and 20 milligrams of Russian D-ball in the 90s. I had friends that couldn't lift 5 pounds in 6 months, all genetics. Yeah. You got those naturally strong people out there that didn't need anything. They're just beasts in the gym. Right, King?
Yeah. Eric, one of my clients way back in the day, Eric Williams, you know, he was a nothing when I met him. And within 6 months, I said to him, I said, Eric, you should do the junior nationals this year. He goes, what are you talking about? You know, I said, do it. And he got up there and he fucking got second place at the junior. I mean, it was my first taste of what genetic freaks are all about, you know, and just the smallest little thing. I was like, when you walk on the treadmill this week, I want you to incline it, don't hang on, and then squeeze your hams and glutes. 1 week, he's got lines on his glutes. You know, I've never seen, again, genetics. You can't, it's the strongest.
It's funny, King, you say that. this guy that does a lot of YouTube stuff we've talked about before. He has like millions of followers. He was saying like, when people do like cardio on the treadmill and the stair climber, when they kick their legs back to like engage their glutes more, that does nothing for your glutes or lines, dude. Yes, it does.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Go tell that to Ronnie Coleman.
Yeah, right.
Fucking treadmill.
Yeah. Doubling your dose does nothing. You still have to grow. Hypothetically, if you're in this long term, it's smarter to start off with smaller doses. Yeah.
And food.
Yeah, food.
There's a good video on YouTube right now. The story of Ronnie Coleman. He who says it clearly. He said, I thought if I lifted heavy ass weights and I was Ronnie Coleman genetics, I'm just going to keep growing. It was not true. He goes, I grew when I started to eat. It's food. You got to eat food.
And I'll get a lot of messages from people they're like, oh, well, you say eat and eat. Well, I just get fat. I'm like, well, you're eating more than you need to, or you're eating the wrong foods. A lot of naturals too, you got to understand when you use gear, it makes you utilize your nutrients and protein and all that stuff better. So you gotta eat food though, when you're natural too. I mean, I naturally got up to 240. I didn't look good. I remember I would go to Subway. My friends worked at Subway, so they'd give me all those stamp cards. I'd eat like 4 foot long subs a day with all that sodium, and I was a big puffball. It's food and training, absolutely. I feel it's an easy way to tell is to look at the hands after 1 to 2 cycles. If their hands aren't muscular, they don't have the genetics to grow. People with the genetics grow muscles in their hands and in their heads. John, I don't know about that. But
I don't know about that. That's out.
Yeah, that's one. They inject in the gym because they're scared of their wives. Yeah, it's crazy, bro. It's crazy how many men use gear and their girlfriends or wives don't know. They're like, oh, they would kill me. I'm like, listen, like I never had a girl that I dated that I hid gear from you. So I'm like, I mean, how much stress would that be? I'm like, yeah, I'm using it. And sometimes they would use a little Clin or whatever. So those guys were like, oh, my wife would kill me and this and that. And have you ever experienced that? Did all your girlfriends know?
My ex-wife didn't compete. She was a commodities broker. She smoked 2 packs a day. She was pretty and all that. But I would catch her so many times going in my orange box. And I'm like, what are you doing? She goes, oh, it's just and then she would, oh, it's just this. Don't worry. It's just T3. Don't worry about it. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I never got that when people would hide it from the girlfriends and all that. Like, dude, if you're a man, tell your girl, hey, I'm using this. Because if you hide stuff, whatever it is, from each other, that's how you end up not in a good place.
Next shows. One of the shows coming up is going to be an Andrew Tate special about how to be alpha. Okay?
Yes.
Because we're going to have to do a whole show about that, because I don't care if you girls get mad at me and Armon. No. We're the boss. That's the way it is. You don't like it? Yeah. Go be a lesbian.
King and I had our ladies weren't a problem for us at all. And so a lot of men, it's a little different these days. It's the women, from the whole, women's rights and all, whatever, their whole movement and all. It's a little different. My friends have
still the same formula. It's still the same. When I still go to these lounges and I hang out, I ignore everybody. I'm there to have a good time. I'm there to smoke some cigars with my cousins, and I see them. I said, whatever, man. And it's the same formula. You ignore them, they want you more. That's how.
Yes, guys don't understand. Like, oh, we'll do an episode of it, but like, this girl, I keep texting her. She won't. Why are you keep texting her? You're thirsty for her. Leave her alone. Don't talk to her for a week or 2, and she'll be texting you. It's common sense.
Yeah,
we'll do an episode on that. Like, that's a great one to do.
My last Persian girlfriend. I said, go have your fun. You'll never find me else.
Nope. All this 300-pound talk today. They're too full. Shark Camp beginning in the 2000s was 300, but he was shredded as hell. He was tall though too. Gunter was tall. He could carry him. Yeah, you got up to 305.
He was also big boned.
Yeah.
So you got to understand that the structure. If you look at it's a good example, like Vince Taylor. You go to Vince Taylor. Vince Taylor's wrists are that big. They're half the size of mine. Yeah. Half the size of mine is Vince Taylor's wrist, but he had super heavyweight muscle on that bone. That's what made him look the way he did on Flex Wheeler. Small joints, round muscles.
Yeah. That's what a lot of people don't understand. You guys got to understand. You can see somebody in the gym and you're like, oh my gosh, they could be an awesome bodybuilder. Then you get them on the stage and they look terrible, but just because of their shape, they got big bones, they got wide hips, they don't have wide clavicles.
So good. You said it so good. If Keon walked into a gym wearing baggy clothes, you wouldn't sit there and look at him and say, wow, that's one of the most premier bodybuilders on this planet. Or even Sean Clarita. You wouldn't look at it. You would. I've seen Sean next. Sean is a tiny little hobbit. I mean, a tiny little thing. He takes his clothes off and it's and he's brown. It's all structure and genetics.
Yeah, when I would go to Destination right down the street from me, and Sean and Keon were there training, they would always usually cover up, and you would never think they were anything. And they go strip down and pose. You're just like, what is that? So that's how bodybuilding is. It's an illusion. That's why it's like it's the lights, it's the oil, it's the tan, all that stuff plays a factor in bodybuilding. So,
right.
King, what happened to that kid Joe Gambino that used to train at your gym back in the day? He used to always hit up Derek Anthony, and I remember hearing he passed away in Vegas.
Well, funny you should say that. Today is the anniversary of him passing away. So, big shout out to Joe. Love you, brother. Rest in peace. He just he moved to Las Vegas. He had an iron deficiency, and I don't know, something happened, and unfortunately, he's not with us anymore. So he was a great kid. Great kid.
We've lost a lot of people, King, and you said 2025 is coming up. This guy, the guy we talked about, King. I forget his name already, but the amateur that dropped out of the nationals 3 times. Do you remember his name?
We did it this year too.
Yeah, with the clots and all that.
Yeah, Elliot something.
Yeah, Elliot Durman. Yeah. So he's posting
a couple days ago. I'm telling you, Elliot, if you listen to this, this is a message from me to you, bro. Be careful. You already got to the edge and you knocked on the door of the Grim Reaper and you're pushing it again. Be careful. It's not worth it. Telling you it's not worth it.
He thought I was hating on him when I was telling him that, no, dude, we don't like seeing people die. We're not, it's not a bash. Dude, you're gonna die. Three times you couldn't get to nationals and get your pro card when you look like a freaking pro. He looks freaking nuts. And he's back to looking freaky.
Looks big, hard, freaky. Yeah, he does.
Yeah. So be careful, man. We don't want to see you in 2025, like King said, What was King's main bicep tricep movement back in the day?
What was my main bicep tricep movement? Same as everybody else's. I didn't have long, so I had to concentrate a lot more on negatives, but my philosophy was always the same. Forced reps, as heavy as I can go, as much as I can do, and then have my training partner push me through 5, 6, 7 more reps. That's the way I always trained. And when it came down to resting, I rested. There's a lot of people like, oh, I'll go do this. No. I'm talking when I rested, slept, and feet up, naps during the day, deep tissue massage, laser cryotherapy, you name it. I did it to recover. And that's why I'm still going. I have little aches and pains. You can see that bump right there. That hurts. Okay, but I'll ice the fuck out of it for the next 2 days, and I'll be back.
Yeah, King's one of the rare ones that looks great still, and is in great shape. There's very few like that. Even myself, I'm younger than King, and I literally hurt. I got a couple really bad car wrecks, and that's what did it for me. But it's very rare to take care of yourself like King did. And that's why coming off the gear, drinking enough water, taking care of you got good skin, you still train, you're still jacked, and without having to do anything pretty much.
Something really important here also is that I was able to do what a lot of people can't when they retire, which was settle with it, come to terms with it, saying, okay, I'm not going to squat 6, 7 plates anymore. I'm not. Look, I go to the gym like today. I went there and I saw this kid, the military pressing on 225. Yeah, I used to warm up with that shit. So I have those memories that are locked in the back of my head. And the kid was right next to me. He was doing 80-pound seated dumbbell shoulders. I was using the 30-pound dumbbells, seated laterals for 30 reps, going like this. Nice. And at the end, he was all cringed up and he was like grabbing his elbows. And here's me with my shoulder, boom, boom. And I'm fine. I'm doing this. It's all coming to terms to realize, okay, I'm still Superman. I'm just not that Superman anymore. I just took a step back. And a lot of pros can't do that. They just can't do it.
Oh. Your training is going to be different in your 20s to your 30s to your 40s to your 50s. And you got to accept that. You got to accept that. People are like, don't you want to, lift crazy heavy again? I'm like, no, I could go do 25-pound dumbbell curls. My arms are still 20 inches. Why do I need to go try to curl 60s and, mess up my forearm or something like that,
Yeah. Nope.
I was getting gear from a friend of mine, but not anymore. Could use a good resource for gear. Okay,
Okay.
We don't give out gear resource. People are funny. Oh gosh. If you look at my RX Muscle post, I also said Aceto wants to be black. Both his wives were black. His kids are half black, and he's Muslim. He acts like if there's someone black there, right? He really does. And my black friends, 3 of them said that after the issue. They're like, Chris is a white guy that wants to be black. Hey.
All right, man. Chris is all right. He's the technician. I think he's wrong about this one, but I like him. Me and Chris have a good relationship.
Armon, they hate us. Imagine what in that powder even being filtered. I don't think it takes out the contaminants. I guess you're talking about China and the raw powders. Yeah, I mean, my friends that do brew and all that, I keep them at a distance because I don't want to be associated with any of that stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's whatever sources they get from over there. And you got to understand, like one of my friends, he owns a pharmacy in China. It's legal there. You could go in and buy it and all that. And he eventually wants to do a hormone clinic with me. So what would happen would be if we started a hormone clinic here, we would get all the drugs from there, but it would be legal because it's a legal pharmacy in China. Right. So you got other places in China that aren't legal, but it's illegal for them to do that. So if they get caught doing that in China, they're getting locked up for like 20 years. 100%. So people's got to understand that. So all these messages you get online, hey, that was a question earlier on my TikTok, like get gear, and everybody was giving all their sources and where to get from. Listen, when you're ordering all this gear overseas, a lot of y'all are being tracked, especially if you're ordering for all your friends and all that. You're want to be the cool one that's giving all your gear to your friends. Listen, they'll track your ass, and one day they'll pop you, and you're in a lot of trouble. Hey, King, when you were with Chad Nichols, did he have you guys on credit protocols, gear, and food?
Food. If you ask me what did Chad do for me more than anything else, he taught me how to eat food. He pounded in my head, eat. If you're not hungry, fuck you, eat. You want to grow, eat. You want to get cut, eat. You want to be stronger, eat. That's it. That's what he pounded in my head.
Well, that's what we talked about earlier in the episode, guys. When Patrick stiffs Aceto for prep fee, maybe he'll change his tune. True.
I'm curious to see what he does at the Arnold. Should be very, very, very interesting.
Do you have him at last, or you have Carlos at last?
I'm not going to say he's going to be last or close to last, but I'm going to say what I said a long time ago. I said he needs to reconsider what division that he's competing in. And he wants to get mad and do all that stuff. That's fine. I'm not going to deal with that shit ever again. But to say that, I mean, look at the classic guys now. Who's that? The Viking guy who got second to Bumstead last year?
Mike. Mike the Badass. He calls himself Mike the Badass.
He's a beast. That motherfucker.
He's a freak.
You know what I'm saying? He is going to be among very, very dangerous for years to come. That kid looks good, man. And he looks like he could win some open classes.
No, he does. I think he'll eventually probably move. He looks. I mean, he looks. I think he's a shorter guy, like a smaller guy, but he looked. I mean, I thought he pushed Bumstead at the show.
A couple of had him ahead of Bumstead. That says a
lot. Yeah. What's your guys' thoughts on SLUPP332? There's one of these like research chemical stuff. But I think it's like a antagonist for estrogen or something like that. I would have to look it up, guys. There's so many like these. I think it's some. Yeah, I think it's some antagonist for like estrogen receptors, and it's for obesity and that.
Every other day. Right there.
Is Ariel Palumbo going to continue to compete, and why did she quit social media? So that's Boston's. That has no relation to Dave Palumbo. That was Boston Lloyd's wife. I don't know if they were legally married, but pretty much wife, girlfriend. I'll say this because this was a little upsetting. So Boston, we would talk all the time, and Boston wasn't really, and he would tell everyone. We talked about this on the podcast, so this is something that was known. He would always say, Armon, I'm not really into sex at all. I've only been with 3 girls in my life, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, whatever, that's cool. So when he passed away, I couldn't go to his funeral because I was on probation then, and my probation wouldn't let me travel for a funeral. And I was upset because Boston, I got very close with the last 2 years before he passed. I was friends with him for 10 or 12 years, but that was his girlfriend or whatever and all that. At the funeral, other people that are there, she was already like with a guy there, skiing. They were like together at his funeral.
That's bad.
So I'm like, I talked to another friend and, listen, that didn't just happen at the funeral. Obviously, they were seeing each other before that. And I'm sure Boston had no clue because Boston's schedule, he would wake up around like 3 or 4 p.m. and, his Ariella and the baby, they would go do stuff. And I'm sure she would probably meet up with that guy. So I used to keep in contact with Ariella. And once I found out that, I mean, that Boston was my boy, and that's hurtful. That's shady. And that's I don't like that at all. So I don't know why she deleted it. I don't know. Maybe she was getting a lot of messages. Who knows? People want to disappear sometimes for social media. I know I have taken leaves from bodybuilding because sometimes you need a break.
Absolutely.
Did Chad Nichols or Milos Sarvet give crazy protocols with diet meds and gear? I didn't work with either of them, but King worked with Chad. We already answered that.
I already answered the Chad one, and as far as Milos goes, no, it was more insulin than anything else.
Yeah. French Parabolin was the best ever, I swear. What's up, Armand? Loving the show. That's a shout out to my client, Aiden. He's a really good kid. He's 21 years old. He's made a lot of gains lately.
Keep it up, Aiden. Keep it up.
Well, I'm proud of him. Good, really good kid. Got his head. One of the few kids that's like young and has their shit together, and they know, he talks about all these other young kids like they're all crazy. So he's a really good kid. Love you, Aiden. You're a great kid. And do you get impressed with any new bodybuilders these days, looks wise? Yeah, we were just talking about Keon as a freak and all that, of course.
Samson, Keon, Andrew, any of those guys, absolutely. Behruz, Hadi, of course.
We're all impressed. When we talk about like older school bodybuilders, we're not like these old grumpy bodybuilders. Oh, it was all better in the day. We just like that look better, that fibrous look through the shoulders. Like it's just too much today. It's too much of everything, too fast, too soon. In a 10-year period, what you should grow, they're slamming it in a 3-year period, and it distorts the physiques. Don't you agree, King?
100%. And I always go back to the one thing, just being realistic. For any of you kids out there, you go and you compare the lineup of the top 10 at the Olympia. Go back to the 2001 Mr. Olympia and the 2001 Arnold Classic. Look at the lineups. That will explain everything to you. you know. And I have a lot. Somebody came in earlier and said King was amazing. He just came at a time where he was competing against, you know, Hall of Famers. I will never change that. I would love the fact that I was on stage against Kevin, Flex, Ronnie, Nasser, you know, Chris. That was a dream come true for me, man. So it's a different era, but it was also just a completely different world, man. But I, too, I'm a fan of bodybuilding. I love Andrew. I love the Africans, you know, Samson, all of them. They're amazing. You know, I love Hadi. I don't like his personality or his character, but he's an amazing bodybuilder. Behruz is going to be fucking top 5 as soon as he gets his visa, if he can get here. You know, there's a lot of great bodybuilders out there.
Yeah, we're huge fans, or we wouldn't talk about it. If we critique guys, that's not disliking guys. You got to understand, people today, they're very sensitive. This is called bodybuilding. When you're so sensitive. When you're a bodybuilder, that's what we critique you on, how you look. So if we say, hey, he was a little off, that person gets mad at you, or they block you on Instagram. It's really weird, King.
It is.
Do you look at bodybuilding as a sport past in its prime, not as good as before? That's what we kind of talk about the whole time. It's great still, but like I said, when King competed, that was in my opinion, when I just got into bodybuilding, that was what I looked up to. Like, you know, I was a fan of Kings. I was king of Ronnie's and that Jay, and that was the era that I think that was, some people like Arnold's era, some people like that. I think y'all's era was the best, and it's just never going to be that again.
Great time.
Yeah. Your opinion about Andrew Tate, good and bads. I think he gives some good information out, but he does say a lot of off the wall shit.
Agree. I mean, Andrew also came out, and I know this for a fact because I heard it myself. He said something about bodybuilding, saying bodybuilders, if I ever saw a bodybuilder, they don't know how to kick his ass. Well, that's because you're a fucking champion kickboxer, you dumbass. But when it comes to his ideals on masculinity, when it comes to his ideas on alpha males and all that stuff, I 100% agree with him. And if I ever saw him, I'd go up to him and say, yo, bro, you need to stop that shit with that bodybuilders, this and that, you know, because we're bodybuilding. We're not fighters. But if you and I ever got into a fight, the first thing I would do is gouge your eyes out.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think. That is, see, that's King Kamali philosophy right there, okay? You put a UFC champion in front of me, okay, first thing I'm going to do, am I going to fight him? No, I'm going to put my finger 3 inches in his eye socket. Fight's done. So I like him, but to a certain degree.
Yeah, I actually did a video on that on TikTok and Instagram when he made that statement. And I think he was kind of making it the statement like, per se, when people say bodybuilders, you know, that could be like the douchebag at the gym that's getting drunk and starting fights. I think maybe that's what he might be thinking about. Like a lot of guys, when they get jacked, a lot of people don't want to fight, especially back in the day. Now people know because you're big doesn't mean you can fight at all. I've had a lot of bodybuilder friends, and we went out and they would get in fights, and I'd have to fight for them because, you know, muscle does nothing for fighting. I mean, if you punch someone, it's probably going to hurt because you got a lot. If you're strong, you're strong. But like King said, if you get in a street fight, like I used to, you know, get a lot of stupid, you know, ass fights when I was growing up. It doesn't matter if you're 150 or 250. You know, if you can fight. So I think Andrew Tate said that probably just, I'm not sure if a bodybuilder had slept with one of his girls or something like that. You know how that works. You know how that works, King. So, you know, a bodybuilder, you know.
Yeah, so. Haven't seen Roadhouse, go watch not the second one, which was garbage. Go watch the original Roadhouse with, rest in peace, Patrick Swayze. You'll understand what fighting is all about.
Yeah. Flex Wheeler used synthol to get round muscles. Is Fitzwater now using a bit too much fillers in his arms? Flex Wheeler.
He used Esacline.
Well, at the end of his career, he did admit to using synthol.
At his prime, when he was incredible, that wasn't Sin, that was Esacline.
Right. I never got to use it. I mean, like I said, one of my best friends, he always used it. I didn't just see the point of it because he was getting like $50 an amp and he'd use it for a shoot or a show. And at that time, I didn't have money to waste on that. But yeah, I heard it did wonders back then, right?
They had doctors that came with them to actual shows. Like,
Shoot
for
them with
example,
it, yeah.
the Arnold Classic, they would bring a massage table, put it in the room, lay down. The doctor would go and just hit 100 shots everywhere. Within 24 hours, you puff them out.
I wonder, King, like when that went away, like I never understood because people still have, like I know Dave still has a couple amps left over from years ago. He just has to. I don't understand why someone can't just replicate that again.
No, you chemists out there, you listening? Replicate it. See what you can do.
Because that's all you'd have to do. Take it to a chemist, and they could literally make that. And it is what it is. So
yeah, you bring up a good point. I don't know why people haven't done that.
No, because back then, you could get all sucked in, and if you were flat, you could just fill your muscles up, right, King?
Yeah, Kevin Levrone, 1-on-1.
Yeah. What do you both think of Nick's latest update? Looking like some leg improvements to me. This is from Aiden again, my good client and friend.
He's big.
I don't. I for a while his legs downsized to me. He was doing that new training stuff with that Jared Feather guy. It's hard to tell now because he's around 300 pounds. Is his legs bigger? We'll have to see when he diets all the way down. What improvements did he make? What do you think?
Again, especially when it comes to the legs, you have to. There's a completely different story when you diet down. Completely different story. So we'll see when he competes at the New York Pro.
Like you've seen Blessing pictures now. He's gotten like really puffed up off season wise, but it doesn't look like the legs improved much. So when he sucks all the way down, I think his legs are just going to be around the same size, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You seen those pictures?
I did.
Yeah.
Well, I like him. I like his personality. I like the fact that he's good for the sport. But as a person outside looking in, I think he should have stuck with the whole social media star and not competed at the IFBB level.
Yeah, it's funny because me and Blessing talked on the phone before, and we were talking about legs and stuff. And I'm like, a lot of the guys they shoot their outer quads with certain side enhancement oils and all that. And he was like, "Well, how do you do?" Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't know anything about it. I was telling him, he's like, "Oh, bro, that's scary. No, I could never do that." And I'm like, "Well, that's what a lot of the guys are doing to get that." You've seen those stupid quad sweeps that are like, like Rami and other people
from in the Middle East do it.
Yeah,
a lot of the people in the Middle East they do that.
But we don't know what they're really using, King. Right? You said that they're using something else.
Something I forgot the name of it. I remember I was talking to the when I went to Iran for my seminars about 10 years ago. I was in the office of the Iranian Federation, the chairman of the Iranian Federation. His name was Reza. And he was telling me about this. He goes, it's a shot that they take, and it only works in the quads. That's what he kept telling me. And it just turns your quads into Rami legs. And I'm like, well, what is it? He's like, he's mentioned it, but I forgot.
Yeah, because there's synthol, and then there's other stuff. Like one of my best friend owns a company called Instasize, and I'll be honest, I'm not gonna lie. Like all these other people, like, oh, I don't believe it. No, I think side enhancement oil, if used right to enhance the muscles slightly, I think that's perfectly fine. I mean, I don't think that's cheating. I mean, how are you going to say that's cheating? But when people abuse it and the muscle starts looking funky, every time we mention Hadi's shoulders, people get so angry. How are you? I mean, we're just talking about what people do. A lot of the people there, you have funny looking body parts, and when you start doing that, that's not how the anatomy goes. Those huge quad sweeps. Like if you look at all you guys, and y'all didn't have that. That's not how the quads. That's not how the anatomy works. You have Tom Platz and all that, but they're shooting stuff and all their outer quads. You got different kinds of stuff. It causes inflammation. It stretches out the fascia tissue. Some of it does cause permanent growth, but a lot of that stuff is pretty painful what those guys are doing. And I think you mentioned a lot of those guys are having kidney issues, right, King?
Yeah, a lot of them. A lot of them.
What's your opinion on DECA, King?
It's great off season. If it's the real thing, the nandrolone, it's awesome. It's good for size, for power, but you're going to have dick issues. So It's a give and take.
Everything King said, agree. Like, I love it for your joints and stuff, but every time I took it, I didn't have a good time in the bedroom. So
there you go.
All said and done, Pat still owes money. Also, if I own a gym in the area, PM wouldn't be welcome because he will rip you off. Beware of gym owners of this. Beware gym owners of this gym. Whatever. Okay. Yo, King, how you been, bro? Give me a call later, Greg Valentino. Okay, so I don't know if this is a real Greg Valentino because there's a fake profile of Greg Valentino that Greg's upset about. We were on the show the other day. He was messaging everybody. I think he even tricked Dave, like he was talking some shit, and Dave thought it was actually Greg. And Greg was like, "You mother effers, keep making profiles of me."
If this is the real Greg Valentino, there's only one person on earth that can answer this question. What was the ethnicity of the tranny that you made me introduced to you at the Sound Factory? Okay, what was the ethnicity of that tranny? Was it Asian? Was it black? Was it white? What was it? If you know the answer to this, then I know it's the real Greg.
We love Greg. He's wild.
That story he said 1,000 times, but again, it's one of the most classic stories. King, do you know them? I was like, well, I know of that person because they're with the girl that I'm talking to. Introduce me. I'm like, all right, here's
King didn't want the tranny that night. He passed him off to Greg. What a nice guy. Did Boston act like the same in real life as he did online? No. You gotta understand, people have online personalities. A lot of people, we're like, we act here. This is us. Rich Piana, which I was friends with Boston, a lot of times online. Boston was pretty close, but we would have normal conversations all the time where he wouldn't do or say silly stuff like he did online. So. Armon, how did you let that Momo Aceto say those things? I don't know. Is this Greg? King asked you a question. I don't think this is a real Greg. King, you're a legend. Me and my girl love watching your content. You're one of my favorite from the magazine days.
Thank you, Danny.
Greg, be careful. Don't cross Aceto. Greg, I don't know. Greg. Seeing pictures of videos of Nasser probably doesn't do him justice. King?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. But even in pictures, he looked incredible. Nasser was a cerebral assassin, too. He spoke like 7 languages. He's always thinking. He's always, conniving and thinking what he can do. And he was an instigator, too, at the same time. And, he's a good guy. I had so much fun with him in Hawaii. So much fun with him. So
I know a lot of people didn't get along with him, though, right?
Because his personality. I understood his personality. When he said, King, be downstairs at exactly 5 minutes and 33 seconds. I thought it was funny. So I would be down there 5 minutes, 33 seconds. And he'd laugh at me. He's like this. Or he would want to go get coffee and it was 3 hours away. I'm the most patient human being. Fine, let's go 3 hours. So we talk this and that. So he was okay. But like when we did my first Olympia, you're backstage at the Mandalay. Each person doesn't get their own room, but Nasser knew somebody. So he had his own private room and he grabbed me. He goes, you come with me, because he knew I'm going to stay out of his way. I'm going to stay in that corner. I'm going to do my thing. And we both had the same coach, Chad. So, you just had to go with his personality. I never had problems with Nasser. Never.
Really dry sense of humor, right? A lot of people probably didn't understand that.
Yeah. When we were at the Arnold and that girl spilled her drinks on my pictures, 8x10s, which was a dick move. He took care of it for me, And all I did is stand back like this and just smile when Nasser destroyed her and all her fucking boyfriends that were standing behind her and destroyed them. I got them kicked out. So that's his personality. I knew Nasser's personality, and I just let him be Nasser.
Armon was right. Patrick shouldn't have snitched on the gear dealer. I think we all agreed on that. Well, most of us, the people that didn't, that's weird. What's up, boys? What's up?
Jeff, what's up?
In the Middle East, where they train the hardest these days, is it comparable to the Venice in the 80s in terms of bodybuilding training intensity? I don't know. King?
They have better equipment. They have better drugs. They have unlimited supply to it's almost like being in a bodybuilding dormitory. That's all they do. Eat, sleep, train, eat, sleep, train. And then immediately after you finish training, you don't have to go home. There's restaurants in the fucking gyms that'll give you whatever you want. You know what I'm saying? That's why they're advanced and that's why they're taking over and all that stuff. But comparing it to Venice in the 80s, no, man, you can't ever compare it to that.
Yeah. I wasn't there in the 80s, obviously, but I think I went there in the first time in 2000. I think I was like 16, and I was just like in awe, and that's what made me fall in love with bodybuilding. I was like, I want to do that.
House, Max Muscle Store, the Hot Skin Store, that chicken place across the street. God, I forgot what it was called. It was just amazing. I mean, all bodybuilders, and then you'd have freaking a movie star walk in, like George Clooney would walk into the firehouse, and nobody's running and getting autographs. He was George Clooney. Who cares? And I was in there with Bob Ciccarello one time, and The Big Show, and what was his name from Remo Williams? Remember that actor? He was in the movie Remo Williams. Anyway, some famous actor. He walked up to our table. He put his hand on my shoulder. He goes, "You guys work harder than anything else in the world." Hey, what's up? That was what I liked about that whole scene.
Yeah.
You go to Muscle, you get to Venice, Gold's Venice. There's movie stars left and right in there, man.
It was a magical time and era, even when I was going there, like from 2000. I would go out there often to shoot with Alex Ardenti, and I had I didn't have a house, but there was a model's house out there we all could stay at if we just took care of it, and Sherman Oaks, and it was just a magical time and place. Like King said, the firehouse. You go to firehouse, you go to the Max Muscle Store, play video games. It was just a cool, awesome time, and it's bodybuilding. It's just I feel bad for a lot of these guys today. They didn't get to experience those certain magical, like, just moments.
It was I get goosebumps thinking about just the magical, that's the best word you could use, magical times of walking in, and then the respect that you got, and the looks, and the looks from the other gym members when they knew, like, they seen you in the magazines, and they look at you and they just like nod their head and smile at you. It was cool. You just don't have that anymore. It's gone.
No. The bodybuilders were a lot more respected. Even me, I never got to your level, King, at all. But, I was in a lot of the magazines, had a contract with Muscle Mag, and just people being anywhere, at the grocery store, the airport, you're like, oh, you're in the magazines, right? I'm like, yeah, So that was really cool that people had respect for bodybuilding, a lot more respect back then. And you couldn't meet your favorite bodybuilder and unless you went to the show. I remember when I was 18, I went to the Arlington Expo. I met you because I was a big fan of yours. Got a picture with you. I sent that to you, I think, a few months ago. And then got a picture with like our Tom Prince. He wasn't very nice to me. And then Craig Titus, I didn't want a picture with him because I knew he to stay away. He wasn't. He didn't look that. He wanted to take pictures, but yeah, you had to go.
Character, you had to know how to deal with him.
Yeah. I think doing Ramadan reset system, and that's why they have good insulin. I don't know about that. King?
The guys that I know who go through the Ramadan are bodybuilders. They just switch their times. They eat during the night and starve during the day. So just backwards. 1 month of being backwards.
Does intestinal growth from insulin GH cause the abductors to grow larger? Is that why Nick Walker's waist is so block-like? No.
No, if you look at Nick's pictures when he was a kid, he had big waist.
And
Look, he just grow into it.
Yeah.
No. And then the GH and the insulin, the abdominal, intestinal growth, no, it's the food. It's the extreme amounts of food. I've said this 1,000 times. It's food.
Because if you see a lot of the guys like Dave, he had a serious distension when he was competing. As soon as he quit competing and stopped eating all that food, his stomach is. I mean, I thought we're in Mexico, Dave, doing stem cell. He took his shirt off. He's ripped and has abs and stomach's flat as a board. So you got to understand, when you're eating like 7-8 meals a day, your stomach is going to be, your stomach stretches out. It's part of it. And,
take probiotics, and very, very important, something I learned from Milos, tea. There are so many amazing teas out there that just detox.
Like dieters tea, yeah. Okay. That's a fake Greg too. That's what I thought. Okay. Aceto is a good guy. He just takes his client's side as a matter of principle, but you're 100% right. That Patrick guy snitched is a person. Yeah. I mean, like I said, me and Chris Aceto, I've always liked him. We got along, and that whole thing, it was just, I didn't get my feelings hurt. I was just like, man, Chris, come on, man. Whatever. Dave's ex, Colleen, was an insulin expert. Colleen, Dave changed up a lot of insulin type protocols because Colleen, she's a diabetic. And so I know a lot of people would hire her for certain insulin protocols and stuff. So, yeah.
Colleen was a nice woman.
You guys remember Greg Kovacs? I ran into him in Long Island in the 90s. He was so huge that he couldn't breathe. True monster. King when I was around him. But
I'm actually friends with him and his wife. Such a nice lady. And it was tragic what happened. And one of my craziest stories of all time has to do with Greg. And it was at the Night of the Champions when I was in the audience just enjoying the show. And then Wayne D'Amelia calls me backstage on the actual sound system. King Kamali, please report backstage. And I'm looking around, and I was with Robbie, and he's like, why do they want you backstage? I have no fucking idea. So I went backstage, and Wayne's sitting there with his arms crossed. Everybody's upset. I'm like, yeah. They're like, Kovacs is leaking. Go help him. And I looked around. I'm like, what does that have to do with me? They're like, well, you both work with Chad. I'm like, oh my God. So I went back, and he was leaking out some fluids and this and that. So, I mean, that's my Greg Kovacs story. He's a nice guy.
Was it a bad site infection?
It was, it was, I think it was too much oil because it was just, the oil will not stop coming out. It just kept coming out. So I was just like, listen, dude, you're going to have to scratch it.
What's your opinion? Best channel bodybuilding for value information? Iron OGs.
Right here. There's nothing yet. I love Dave Palumbo. Anytime he needs me, I will be there to help him out for any of the things that he wants me to do. I know the other shows and all that stuff, and I work with Generation Iron for a long time. I love them too, but you're not going to get anything like this, man. There's too much experience and too much knowledge, and I don't compete anymore. And Armon, there's no politics involved here. There's nothing that I wouldn't say here that I wouldn't say straight to Steve Weinberger, who happens to be a good friend of mine. So you get everything here.
Besides us, Dave RX has given a lot of great information over the years, and
Dave, if I don't know an answer to a question, there's two people in my life. One, I'm not going to say his name because he's a very private person. He lives down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He is a genius. I mean, his brain, his IQ, he is just one of the smartest. And there's nothing that this man doesn't know that I call him up and ask him. He'll answer for me. That's one. The other one's Palumbo. If I don't understand something, I'll call up Dave. I say, Dave, what the fuck's up with this? And he'll explain it.
Yeah, Dave's like an encyclopedia.
What he's talking about.
Yeah. I've never IV'd Oxy, but the first time I snorted one, I was hooked for over 10 years. It became a grand a week habit. One thing is a drug addict is very resourceful, making money. Yeah, it's crazy, man. Yeah, that's nuts.
Grand week.
Who are you guys' favorite ever physiques? I don't know, King. I don't really have my favorites. I mean, I like
Coleman 2003, Flex Wheeler 1998, Kevin Levrone 1996.
Yeah, I agree with King. All those are great bodybuilders, and those years were probably their best years. Could Lee Priest qualify for the Olympia and Open, or is he better to the 212? What do you mean, Lee Priest? Lee Priest is retired.
I think
Back
it's
then,
like hypothetical. Please, this
like today,
he's a short guy.
yeah.
At ultra conditioned, Lee Priest will be 212.
Right, yeah, because then he compete around 200. Well, we'll have Leon next week, so we'll all your Lee questions. You can ask Lee himself.
Yeah. So. When we have Lee on, it's going to be great, man, because we don't hold back and he doesn't hold back.
Yeah. Okay. Iron OGs is a real deal. They don't need anyone and nobody pays them, so they just keep it real. Which he says, appreciate it, John. I know John. Couple more guys. Been married 23 years and only took a short break once. That became dishonesty. Be honest with them, and if they object to the talk about the gear and all that. Yeah. So yeah. Well, yeah, we talked about that earlier about the gear. Would you guys consider training someone that's not pro or amateur? Yeah, we have lifestyle clients, tons of lifestyle clients.
Jason, 95% of my clients are normal people that don't want to have anything to do with competition or anything like that. They just want to get ready for a wedding, want to look good for the beach. They have a cruise coming up. The 40th birthday is coming up, and they've never had abs. That's another one I get from a lot of people. I never had abs. If I could get abs, it is the biggest dream of my life. Okay, let's do this.
Yeah, me too. My 90% of my clients are normal people that want to get in shape. You got to understand, coaching only bodybuilders, it's different now than it was back then. A lot of these guys today, they don't listen. They want to do things double, and it's harder to work with bodybuilders today than it was back then. People just listen better. Like I said, yeah, like a lot of before and after clients, you do the prep, the program, you get them in shape. A lot of them don't want their before and after pictures posted. I totally respect that, because I always ask my clients, like, hey, before and after, you made a great transformation. Do you mind to post it? Some people don't want to post it, others do. And we'll eventually do an episode, like we keep saying, of before and after, a few before and after pictures of our, like, some dramatic clients. Before and afters. So I've seen King's clients on IG, very impressive. Yep, they are. I'm not that great at posting on IG. My clients, I really don't post them that much on there. I usually post them on my Facebook.
You're a TikTok guy, man. You're TikTok famous.
Bro, I started TikTok because people were telling me I had to get on. And
last week when they blocked it.
Yeah, I got the whole thing, and I'm like, there's no way this is gonna last. Like, and so I was like,
up crying. Dad, like, what, Dad? I was like, oh,
yeah.
Trump will bring it back. Don't worry.
Yeah,
Trump's not gonna let that happen.
People are making videos on IG crying, like, how could you do this? This is our life. This is our money. And I agree. I mean, when I got on TikTok, I got so much hate, especially because you got to understand, it's a much younger audience than like Instagram and especially Facebook. I got a lot of hate on there. People were like, who are you? You don't even know what you're talking about. I'm like, you can Google my name to see who I am. I mean, but I got a lot of hate on there until people knew what I was kind of talking about. And then, I have a decent following on there. So TikTok's okay. You just can't talk about much. You get banned very easily. You have to say certain words that, you have to say unalived instead of killed. And you got to learn the lingo of there. So protocols today versus 90s, 2000 era, who did less? I know these days there's a lot of emphasis on safety, blood work. We talked about that earlier. So watch earlier in the episode. We went over all that. All right, one more question, guys. What's your opinion on Shelby Starnes as far as a coach to get you shredded, not talking about his diuretic protocol? All I know is Shelby Starnes is, he has a lot of bodies of the diuretic protocols. He, about 8 girls he killed. And one of them was very vocal that went on that she almost died, but she's living a very horrible life today with a lot of health issues. And I don't understand why these guys do what they do. And I couldn't look myself in the mirror. I've never had a sick client. Clean's never had a sick client. We're very careful. Like we said, as coaches, a lot of y'all had a bad experience. You hire someone, you get shot a cookie cutter email that they send to everybody, and that's that. It's more than that. We're guiding you through the whole process. You could text us at any time It's a lot more than that. A lot of these coaches, we don't know why they do that. If one of my clients died on stage, I would quit. I'd be I mean, I don't know how people live with themselves and they do that. It's sad. King?
Agreed. Yeah, no, 100% agreed. And to finish it off, perfect timing. You want to contact Armon or myself for coaching, contact us via Instagram, email. Our information is out there. My email is kingkamali@hotmail. Easy. And my Instagram, everybody knows. Same thing with Armon. We do it safe. And I have a ton of champions. And the best thing about us is we don't just need freaks. I enjoy normal people coming to me and I turn them into champions. And a lot of those people, this is a little extra cherry on top of the cake, and I'm sure you'd agree with me, they end up coaching themselves because they learn, they realize, they understand. My perfect example is Lacey, my client. She started her own business. It's like blonde bombshell, something fitness. She's got girls coming to her. She's making money. She understands. And if she doesn't understand something, she sends me a text and I'm there for her no matter what. Yep. Tell her to do this. Boom. So contact us. Let's get this going. Summer's right around the fucking corner, guys.
Yeah. People always ask, they're like, how do you get a hold of, I mean, it's very easy to get a hold of us. King Kamali on his Instagram, and he gave out his email. Me, my Instagram, or my website. It's very easy. People will message me on my Instagram, how do I contact you for coach? I'm like, dude, my Armon Adibi is in my bio. Last one. Stars is a guru with many dead athletes who followed his program. How can that be allowed to continue to show up at shows? There's no rule in bodybuilding. Like if your athletes die, you can't show up at shows. It is, I mean, that client, you trust somebody, you listen to someone. It's not like we're not doctors. We don't have a degree where, a practice where if we have a malpractice, we get sued. So, just stay away from those names.
There's nothing illegal about advice.
Right.
You can't there's no court.
If you're getting it.
Court. He told me to take this. No, you shouldn't have been listening to him. What are you talking about? There's no laws against advice.
If you're getting gear for people, especially I know a lot of coaches that are they charge a very cheap amount and they're just gear dealers and they sell to a lot of teenagers, which is stupid. And a lot of those guys and those teenagers, they get sick or they get hurt. Yeah, potentially you can get in legal trouble. You're giving them the product. So just like, opiates and fentanyl dealers, opiate dealers, when someone ODs and dies, they look through the phone, they find the dealer, and they prosecute the dealer for manslaughter. So, yeah, be careful, guys. That's all the questions today. We went 2 hours today, King.
Yeah, man, we killed it.
We had a lot to talk about. All right, guys. Iron OGs next week. Hopefully, Lee Priest is feeling okay enough, and I'm glad he's out of the hospital because I worry anytime blood clots, especially talk about chest, worried about him. But glad Lee's okay. Hopefully, he'll be on next week, and we'll talk about whatever next week the subject comes up. Love you, King. Have an amazing day. I know you're probably going to the gym or eating 5 more meals or 6.
Went this morning. Right now it's eating and emails and text messages. So I'm good.
All right, brother. Have a beautiful day. I'll talk to you later.
Take care, guy. Peace out, man.
Peace.